Chase is coming to Maya's graduation with us, my wife says, as casually as if she's asking whether I want lemon in my water, not even looking up from the chipped blue mug she's been nursing all morning. Chase, not her brother, not an old friend, not a neighbor who watched our kid grow up. Her personal trainer, her new orbit. The syllables land with the clean, hard click of a deadbolt turning. I stand there with my toast halfway to my mouth, watching steam rise from the dishwasher when it opens and fog the kitchen window. There's a spider web in the corner I should have knocked down last week. I say, I'm sorry, what? But I heard her the first time. He's become a good friend, she adds, finally meeting my eyes, like that makes it less obscene. To our family. Our family. The words catch in my throat and scrape like gravel. I set the toast down on the plate and listen to the house breathe. The refrigerator humming, the air conditioner kicking on, a dog barking 2 yards over. The list of noises has not changed in 20 years, but the meaning of them has. When did that happen? When did the sound of the front door closing stop meaning, I'm home, and start meaning, I'm elsewhere in my head? My daughter's graduation is a family event, I say. My voice is low even. I have given hundreds of client presentations without my heart rate rising. A single sentence in my own kitchen makes the room tilt. Maya's graduation is a celebration, she says, softening her tone into something practiced, a teacher speaking to a sleepy classroom. We should all be there. People who support her. People who care about her. People like her parents, I say. People like her parents, she echoes, and then adds in the same breath. And the people who've been there for us when we needed it. The we is a barb hidden under velvet. Then she turns off the dishwasher, sets her mug in the rack, and snags her gym bag from the chair like we were talking about the weather. Don't forget to confirm the dinner reservation, she says at the door. They said they could squeeze us in at 8. We might be a few minutes late. Chase has a 6 p.m. class and wants to shower. I stare at the space she leaves behind as if she might still be in it. My name is Adrian Vale. I'm 47. I've been a financial planner in Riverbend, North Carolina, for 24 years. I've started from a folding card table and a secondhand laptop and built a practice that weathered recessions and market shocks and a pandemic that killed small businesses like weeds. I've sat at kitchen tables with couples who grew old together, and I've watched them hold hands while deciding how to fund a grandchild's education. I've coached clients past panic when the market plunges and past greed when it surges. The one thing I haven't done is plan for my wife to look right through me while she invites her trainer to sit in the front row of our daughter's commencement. I take the long route to the office. The sky is a thin, stubborn color that can't decide between silver and blue. Our boulevard is lined with pin oaks that shed stringy catkins over everything, and my wipers smear pollen into a haze. At a light, I pull up our bank app out of reflex. Normal, normal, normal. Groceries, gas. A farmer's market I don't remember going to, but that could be Maya. The credit card shows a yoga studio membership I know about, and a sporting goods store I don't. Small amounts. Nothing with teeth. The numbers look fine. The story they tell doesn't. Riverbend isn't a big city, but it is a community that loves its rituals. High school football on Fridays, church or brunch on Sundays, graduation weekend spun like cotton candy around the campus of the state university that anchors us. Maya will walk across that stage in 3 weeks, in a sea of blue gowns and mortarboards, the first in either of our families to earn a degree that isn't about survival. She's always been a list maker, a planner. She worked barista shifts through midterms, sent me quarterly summaries of her expenses without my asking, and still found time to volunteer at the shelter that rehabilitates injured hawks. I should be memorizing the route from the parking deck to her ceremony, debating which restaurant has the best pecan pie, figuring out how to stash a check in her napkin without her noticing. Instead, I park 2 blocks from my office and sit in the truck until the windows fog. I meet the Hendersons at 10, married 35 years. He coached Little League when Maya was in T-ball. She used to bring orange slices in a cooler. They grew a landscaping business out of a rusted pickup and a borrowed mower, and now have 6 crews and a reputation for fixing the mess other companies leave behind. They pass a set of reading glasses between them, finishing each other's sentences when they can't find a word. When I ask how they envision their retirement, she squeezes his knee. We'll probably see more of each other than he'd like, she jokes, and he laughs like the luckiest man in a room full of treasure. I watch them leave with a folder of charts and a sense of direction and feel something crack quietly behind my ribs. There is a way a couple moves together when years haven't hardened into resentment. It isn't flashy. It isn't performative. It's 1,000 small mercies. Take the trash out when you're tired. Put gas in her car. Notice when he needs a quiet night more than a dinner party. See the person in front of you, not the role they play. When did Laurel stop seeing me? When did I stop looking closely enough to notice? Back home, I find her in our bedroom with the door closed, voice pitched into that new register she reserves for calls I'm not supposed to overhear. Laughing too easily. Pausing too long. The air smells like the grapefruit lilac perfume she started wearing last spring. My hand is on the knob, not turning, just resting, like maybe I can absorb what's happening through the wood. When she comes down with her cheeks warm and her posture bright, I ask, "Who was that?" And she says, "Maya," without blinking. Talking about the graduation speaker. "Maya's at work," I say. I brought her lunch at the cafe an hour ago because her text was a whisper from a crowded room. "Dad, you near campus? My break's at 12:30, and if I eat one more granola bar, I'll combust." Laurel's face freezes for a millisecond, then rearranges. "She must have stepped out back," she says, and for the first time in 22 years I hear what a lie sounds like in my wife's mouth. It isn't loud. It doesn't clang. It glides in, polite and tidy, and sits down at the table like it's always belonged. That night, I pull the bottom drawer of my office file cabinet and slide out a blue portfolio I haven't opened in 8 years. The edges of the paper are crisp. The signatures are neat. The document is a post-nuptial agreement, drafted with the help of my attorney, signed by the two of us after a client sued his advisor for the first time since I'd been licensed. Laurel was the one who asked for it back then. "You take on risk on my behalf when you advise people," she said, her brow furrowed in that precise way that made me fall in love with her the first time I saw her grade papers at our kitchen table. "I want to protect what we've built if someone decides to use you for a punching bag." She found herself a lawyer, a woman named Deidre with a reputation for making sure women didn't get swallowed by contracts written by men. And we sat at our dining room table with pens and coffee and a picture of Maya, wearing a Halloween angel costume on the mantel, and we signed an agreement that divided our assets if calamity ever came. It included a clause about infidelity. At the time, it felt theoretical, like buying flood insurance in a drought. It says that if either of us is unfaithful, financial claims tied to business equity and certain accounts were waived by the guilty party, a protection meant to focus energy on healing instead of fighting. I remember Laurel's hand in mine when we initialed that page. I remember saying, "This is a parachute we'll never pull." I close the portfolio. I take a walk around the block. I watch the neighbor's cat sit like a loaf of bread on the hood of a warm car, and I memorize the sound of my own feet on our sidewalk because it is the only sound I trust right now. The confirmation arrives on a Tuesday morning like a stone dropped into a still lake. My phone buzzes while I'm reviewing a client's asset allocation for an upcoming quarterly call. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzes again. This time there's a text. A photo of my wife sitting at a hotel bar under warm pendant lights, a glass of wine in front of her, shoulder pressed against a man with a gym rat jawline and a haircut you need to maintain every 2 weeks or it loses its swagger. His hand is on her thigh. Her head tips toward his shoulder. The caption is succinct. "Thought you should know. Hotel security can verify." I stare at the photo long enough for the edges to blur. Then I step into the hallway, call the number, and hear a steady voice introduce himself as Kevin Ward, head of security at the Elmcrest Hotel downtown. He says, "I wouldn't get involved if it weren't clear," and in the space after clear I hear the life he's lived. A little brother who didn't find out until too late. A divorce that hollowed a man he loved. A promise to himself that if he could keep another family from stepping into the same sinkhole, he would. He tells me he can provide dates, times, camera angles, billing records, all captured in mundane high definition. I ask him to hold while I swallow hard enough to reset my voice. Then I say, "Please," and he says, "Of course," and I hang up and lean my head against the cool painted drywall of my office and listen to the blood in my ears roar like surf. It turns out I am not a man who throws things. I don't punch holes in walls. I don't go to the gym and punish my knees on a treadmill until the belt smokes. What I do, after a walk that takes me nowhere, is open my laptop and make a list. It isn't a vengeance list, not exactly. It's a practical inventory of the things I'd advise any client to address in a crisis. Where are your assets held? What structures protect them? What proof do you have of what is happening? What do you want your life to look like on the other side? Laurel comes home that night, hair damp from a shower, cheeks flushed, and tells me she's staying late tomorrow. Janet at work needs help with a volunteer event, and I tell her to take her time and not to worry about dinner. Then I pull up my contacts and call James Lockhart, a lawyer who has talked me down from ledges more than once by reminding me that panic is just a story your brain tells when it doesn't understand all the facts. James greets me like usual, low and warm. I give him the bare-bones version because I have learned that details are a tax your body pays twice. First when you live them, and again when you recount them. He listens. He asks me to dig out the post-nup. He reads it while I hear pages turning. When he gets to the clause I haven't thought about since we initialed it, he clears his throat. "You're on solid ground, Adrian," he says, the way a pilot says we'll be through the turbulence shortly. "If you can document adultery, everything outlined here goes into effect." "What about the house?" I ask. "Joint property before the post-nup. Ordinarily, that's a 50-50 split," he says. "But there are lawful ways to protect your daughter's interest in the property, if you're thinking generationally. I know the law about hiding assets. Don't. Not my style. Never has been. I'd rather walk away with a backpack and my records clean than win with a trick that collapses under a judge's glare. But protecting your child? Planning for education and housing and a future that doesn't involve scraping together a down payment in a predatory market? I can build that without lying to anyone." That night, I call Maya after her shift. She answers on the first ring and tries to sound like the steam latte machine isn't screaming in the background. "How's school?" I ask, and she laughs like I've asked whether water is wet. "Finals are chasing me with a stick," she says. "Ask me again in 4 days." We talk about the bookstore folding posters for the ceremony and the fact that her friend B bought a donut pan and now brings experiments to the cafe for staff to guess the frosting flavors. I ask, careful, whether she thinks her mom and I will be okay sharing a row, and there's a pause long enough for an owl to fly through it. "I hope so," she says lightly, which is not hope at all but a white flag. "It's my day, remember? No battles on my day." "You have my word," I say, and I mean it with a bone-deep fierceness that surprises me. I will not let my daughter's memory of her graduation be her parents clawing at each other in front of her grandparents. I will not turn her milestone into my battleground. If it costs me the satisfaction of blowing up this lie with confetti cannons on the university lawn, I'll take that cost and call it a bargain. Kevin Ward's package arrives on a Thursday. He hands it to me in person in the lobby of my office building with a handshake that says he's accustomed to seeing men try not to cry. He's compiled dates, timestamps, security footage stills, billing logs, and a typed narrative of what his staff observed. It is clinical and careful and exactly what a court would need. It is also a sledgehammer. In my truck, I flip through the pages and watch my hand stop shaking after a minute. Sometimes the truth hurts less than the not knowing. Good. Now I know. What I don't expect is the folder I find 2 days later when I'm looking for a spare phone charger in Laurel's jewelry drawer. Under the chunky bracelet I bought her in Charleston on our 10th anniversary is a sheaf of printouts from a real estate site. Apartments in Asheville. Condos in Somerville with balconies that face the marsh. All rentals. All circled. I recognize her handwriting from a mile away. A tidy list near the bottom that reads, "New DL? Electric bill? 30 days residency. File July." A script has been written for me. My role. The bewildered husband who loses his place in the middle because the actors around him rewrite the scene while he blinks. I sit on our bed with the folder open and remember the day we set up our first joint checking account, when the teller pushed a clipboard through the slot and Laurel squeezed my hand under the counter. "Look at us," she whispered. "Real grown-ups." The room spins gently and then steadies, and when it does, so do I. I call my accountant. Robert has the disposition of a patient math teacher who saved 100 kids from hating numbers by explaining that numbers are a language like any other. Learn the grammar, and you'll unlock meaning that looked like static. I tell him I need an irrevocable trust for Maya's education and well-being, and I want it yesterday. He asks 3 questions in a voice that betrays nothing but curiosity. He tells me what documentation to bring in the morning. When I show up, he has a draft already in a folder with a sticky note that says, "Proud of you." like I'm 13 and just aced algebra. We create something simple and ironclad. A trust that holds assets designated for Maya's education, housing down the line, and a cushion big enough to keep her safe from the awful math of emergencies. I name myself trustee until she's 30. The assets belong to her now, not me. We transfer 60% of the investments I'm legally able to move. We convey my half of the house into the trust. We assign the 2 rental properties we bought when the market cratered and everyone else panicked. Everything is transparent. Everything is properly recorded. I am not hiding money in a sock under a bed. I'm honoring every principle I've taught clients for 2 decades. I'm protecting the person who didn't choose any of this. For a week, I lived 2 lives like lines of code running parallel. In one, I am a husband who asks about her day and refills her water glass at dinner and resists the urge to check the rearview mirror every time she says she's going out for yoga and tea. In the other, I am a project manager with a deadline no one else sees. I hire an investigator named Lena who wears scuffed boots and carries a camera that looks like it could survive a war. She returns 2 days later with a thick report detailing restaurant receipts, gym parking logs, and a weekend Laurel claimed she spent helping her sister with a move. Her sister lives 5 states away. A photo of Laurel and Chase in a mountain town 2 hours from here has them pressed together in heavy coats while the marquee above their heads reads, Couples Workshop. I don't cry. I don't shout. I make a copy of the photo for the file, and then I take a shower so hot it turns my skin pink and I stand there until the water runs tepid. 2 nights before the ceremony, Laurel floats through the house humming, lit from the inside by a secret she plans to light like fireworks. Tomorrow's going to be a new beginning, she says, and kisses my cheek like a benediction she doesn't believe in anymore. You'll see. Will I? I ask. She smiles in a way I cannot parse and says, you might even thank me. The morning of graduation, the sky is the kind that makes old men talk about how they don't make skies like they used to. Blue that looks hand-painted, clouds like someone ironed them. The campus is a river of families in their best clothes. Mothers holding bobby pins with their teeth, grandparents huffing up the steps, and then triumphantly finding their seats. Laurel wears a dress I've never seen, a deep green that flatters her in a way I would have told her if I still lived in the same room as her heart. Chase is in a navy suit that fits like it was tailored. He gives Maya a hug as if he's earned it. I watch Maya flinch almost imperceptibly and then recover like someone trained to smile through pain. Thanks for coming, she says, which is its own kind of condemnation. We sit together in the row reserved for immediate family. I don't look at Chase. Acknowledging him feels like letting a stranger sit at our Thanksgiving table and carve the turkey. I focus on the stage where Maya will appear, on the brilliant, brittle energy of 1,000 lives accelerating at once. When her name is called, the world narrows to a single beam of light. She walks like a woman, not a child. I don't know when that happened. Maybe it always was. After, the green lawn is a patchwork of blankets and camera flashes and caps dotting the grass like turtles. Our parents are crying. Someone's uncle is handing out tiny cans of champagne. Laurel positions everyone for photos with the competence of a wedding planner. Okay, she says, voice bright and ringing. Before we head to dinner, I want to say something. She steps forward, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The air shifts. The chatter around us softens. I see it all as if from above. Our daughter still in her gown, clutching embossed paper like a shield. My mother in a coral cardigan. Chase standing slightly behind Laurel with his chin up, like a gladiator waiting for a trumpet. I've decided that I'm done pretending, Laurel says, loud enough for the people 2 blankets over to stop chewing. She looks at me, and there is triumph in the look, the kind that makes a person forget to look down for the cliff. Adrian, I'm moving out. She lifts her chin toward Chase. Chase and I are together. We're building something real. Life is too short to be unhappy. A murmur ripples through our cluster. My mother takes a breath like she's about to speak, but I hold up a hand, and she closes her mouth and puts the breath back. Maya's face goes white. She whispers, Mom, what are you doing? But Laurel is already cupping the back of her neck like a coach soothing a startled horse. Baby, you'll understand soon. I do something then that surprises even me. I smile. It isn't a performance. It is the smile of a man who has been waiting for a door to open so he can leave the burning room with everything that matters tucked under his arm. Thanks for being honest, I say. I reach into the inside pocket of my jacket and remove a manila envelope I sealed last night with a piece of tape my daughter decorated when she was 9. I brought a gift for you too. Laurel's eyes narrow a hair. She takes the envelope because she believes, still, that she is directing this scene. She opens it without hurry. Her breath catches at the first page. A hotel receipt with her signature in a looping hurry. Then the camera stills. Then Kevin Ward's statement. Then Lena's report. She flips pages faster as if speed can change the words. When she gets to the last section, deeds and assignments and the trust documents, she reads twice and then looks up with a face I haven't seen since the time she found a snake in our garage. What is this? She says, but her voice is different now. It's the opposite of humming. Documentation, I say, and a plan. What plan? Chase snaps, finally speaking, the anger in his mouth a poor substitute for strategy. He steps forward like a bouncer who has mistaken his job. You can't, whatever this is. I can, I say calmly, because what a gift it is to be able to tell the truth and mean it. 8 years ago, Laurel and I signed an agreement to protect our assets if certain circumstances came to pass. They did. I followed the agreement. I also established an irrevocable trust for Maya's education and future. It's funded. It's recorded. It is, to use an old-fashioned word, righteous. Laurel glances down at the page where my signature and Robert's and the notary's sit like anchors. You can't put the house in a trust without my consent, she says, reaching for legal footing like it's a railing on a slick staircase. I didn't, I say. I conveyed my half to a trust for our daughter. Your half remains yours. You're welcome to sell it to the trust or to me for fair market value when we decide how to dissolve the rest of this politely. But you can't force the trust to liquidate without the beneficiary's consent, and I don't think Maya wants to be displaced so you can pay for a Marshview rental. Chase's mouth opens and closes like a base. How much? He says, as if money is a person you can interrogate. How much did he move? Laurel shushes him, but the question hangs there, vulgar and thick. I look at Maya because she is the only person I will answer to in this moment. Enough, I say softly. Enough for school. Enough for an emergency. Enough to make choices out of desire instead of fear. Laurel shakes the envelope as if loose bills might spill out. This is vindictive, she says, but it isn't anger in her voice now. It's panic wearing an ill-fitting coat. This is petty. On her day? It becomes her day again when we're done here. I say. You tried to turn it into your stage. I'm closing the curtain. I take a step closer and lower my voice, so only she hears. You plan to announce this here. I found your notes. The timing was designed to humiliate me, so I wouldn't fight for anything. It would have worked on the man you've been living with in your head. It won't work on me. Silence has a shape. In that moment, it is a perimeter. The family forms a ring around us, watching like they're witnessing an eclipse through pinholes. Maya takes a breath that makes her shoulders tremble and asks the only question she needs answered. What happens now? We go to dinner. I say. We celebrate you. Tomorrow, your mom and I will meet with our lawyers and file for an uncontested divorce. There will be no fighting in public. There will be no mud. You are not a pawn. You will not be asked to choose. You will not be told secrets to make you take sides. We will be adults. You will be our child. That is the only line that matters. My father, who taught me to fix a leaky sink with a wrench and a towel and patience, nods once as if to approve of the order of operations. My mother starts crying in full, chesty sobs that belong to a woman who survived worse in her youth and still can't believe what people do to each other when they stop seeing the good. Chase mutters something about men who can't let go. No one acknowledges him. Laurel places the envelope back in my hand with the ginger care of a person returning a hot pan to a stove. Dinner is a blur of clinking forks and toasts and Maya's roommate standing on her chair for a speech that will live in family lore because it involves a poem that rhymes macroeconomy with Mom, look at me. Laurel leaves early without fanfare. Chase disappears at some point between dessert and the check, and the table collectively refuses to wonder where he went. The next morning, I wake up to a house that feels like someone threw open every window. I make coffee without the tense choreography of sharing a space with a stranger. I text Maya a photo of a robin yanking a worm out of our lawn and a caption that says, Hero. She sends back a picture of her feet in fuzzy socks on the coffee table with a stack of thank you cards beside them and a caption that says, "Boring hero." The day unspools quietly until my phone buzzes and buzzes and buzzes with numbers I don't know. Laurel has found a lawyer who tells her what James told me a week ago. The post-nup is enforceable. The trust is lawful and irrevocable. She retains her pension and the vehicle in her name, and whatever she brought into the marriage before I was old enough to worry about men like Chase. Anything else requires negotiation that starts from the foundation we built, not from the air castle she designed with a pen. 2 weeks later, when she realizes the ground won't move under her just because she stomps, she tries pleading. "You're punishing me," she says over the phone, voice bright with tears for the first time. "Adrian, we have 20 years. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counts for nearly everything," I say, and it's true, and she knows it's true. That's why I didn't humiliate you. That's why I didn't shout. That's why my mother did not hear me call you names that would poison her mouth for a year. It's why our daughter will be able to sit with both of us at a holiday table without clenching her jaw. I did the decent thing here. I also did the smart thing. Those can live in the same house. Chase evaporates in less than a month. Men like him require a steady supply of flattery and momentum. When one stops, they move on to the next place where they can steal both. I hear through a lattice of neighbors and gym acquaintances that he started showing up with a new client to the same restaurant he sat with Laurel, and I wonder whether he orders the same wine and if the staff has a code name for men like him, like the flight attendants do for passengers who drink too much and call it turbulence. Maya and I have dinner the following month at a place she's loved since she was 12 because the waiter always brings her an extra spoon with dessert. She looks at me with eyes too much like her mother's, except the light in them belongs to her, and only her. "Are you angry at her?" she asks, and I shake my head before the feeling has a chance to rise. "No. I'm sad," I say, "and I'm relieved. Both are honest. Both are temporary." "Are you angry at yourself?" she asks, because of course she does. She is my child, and I raised her to ask the second question after everyone else stops at the first. "Sometimes," I say, "for missing it while it was small, for letting 1,000 little things stack up until they cast a shadow I mistook for evening." I take a sip of water because my mouth has gone dry, but I know I did my best with what I knew then. And when I knew better, I did better. That's all I can ask of myself. "You did better," she says, and reaches across the table to squeeze my hand. And the calluses she's earned from pouring coffee and hauling textbooks feel like a blessing. 6 months pass. I sell my truck, which felt like a uniform I no longer have to wear, and buy a sensible hybrid that makes a polite humming sound in traffic. I move into a smaller house on the other side of town with a deep porch and a magnolia that drops glossy leaves like forgotten letters. The practice hums along. My clients, who watch me show up for them through my own private storm without missing a beat, refer me to their friends because steadiness reads as love in my line of work. Laurel moves into a one-bedroom near a yoga studio with a bamboo floor and a jar of lemons on the counter, and when I see her picking out avocados at the market one Saturday, I nod and she nods back, and the exchange is clean and quiet. Sometimes I drive past the old house the way you drive past your elementary school, just to feel the angle of the sun on that corner again. The new owners painted the shutters black and planted hydrangeas that will pink in the heat. I don't miss the feeling of waiting to hear which version of my wife is coming through the door. I do miss the life I thought we had before I audited the books and found the numbers didn't add up. But here is what no one tells you about loss that isn't sudden. You get to build a new habit of breathing, and one day you notice that the habit is just your life. On Maya's birthday, we meet at the park by the river for a picnic that the forecast tried to ruin with an afternoon thunderstorm it never delivered. We eat fried chicken out of a paper box and laugh about a cousin's disastrous haircut. And when Laurel asks whether she can take an early photo before I leave because she doesn't want to risk the two of us ending up in the same frame, I say of course and step out of the light without resentment. I do it because it costs me nothing and buys my daughter an hour of ease. As I walk to my car later, I look up at the sky and think of all the ways I use to measure worth. Net worth, home equity, return on investment. Now the metric is simpler and feels more adult. Can I sleep at night? Do the people I love know it? Did I keep my dignity when I was invited to set it down? At some point, a client tells me a story about a neighbor whose husband torched his ex-wife's reputation on social media after a messy divorce. He thinks he won, the client says, shaking his head while we review the beneficiary designations he forgot to update after his own divorce a decade ago. But he's alone at every party because nobody wants to be near a man who weaponizes a secret. I think about the envelope I handed to Laurel on the lawn and the delicious ache of restraint that followed. I think about how easy it would have been to turn the moment into a meteor shower. I do not regret turning it into a lamp turned off. One night, almost a year later, I meet an old friend for a drink at a place downtown with exposed brick and a line of hanging bicycles that make the bartender look like he's pouring cocktails in a bike shop. We sit under a fan that turns lazily, and I tell him the story in the short version, because the long one belongs to very few people. He laughs at the right parts and shakes his head at the others and says, "You gave her the softest landing you could afford. That's generosity dressed like a boundary. I gave our daughter the future I promised her when I held her 30 minutes after she was born and told her my name." I say, "That's all I care about." "And yourself?" he asks, like a therapist who does not care that we are drinking beer instead of herbal tea. "I gave myself a life," I say, "not the one I wrote down in a notebook when I was 23 and thought plans were shields. The real one. The one where you change your shirt after a storm and then step outside to see what the air smells like." I take a sip and let the cold sit on my tongue. Also, petty bonus. I made a personal trainer learn what a balance sheet is, and I'm okay with that. He laughs harder than the joke deserves. Not because it's funny, but because it's relief shaped like laughter. We talk about baseball and the new ramen place and the way the river smells different after rain. And when I drive home, I pass the university's north gate out of habit. They planted new oaks there, smaller than the ones that watch the main quad like sentinels. They'll grow if nobody hacks at them to make room for someone else's shortcut. They'll learn to throw shade in the right places. They'll outlive the buildings if given half a chance. People tell stories about revenge like it's a torch you carry in a parade, bright and obvious and meant to be watched. Mine wasn't. It was a ledger balanced. A set of doors closed with clean hands. A promise kept to a girl who once stood at the top of a slide and yelled, "Watch me, Dad," and expected me to be there at the bottom, clapping when she landed. It was the most adult thing I've ever done, and it took me until 47 to learn how to do it. If there's a moral here, it isn't burn it all down. It's this: build a shelter the day you realize the rain isn't going to stop, and invite the people worth saving to stand under it while the storm spins itself on the road. Laurel sent me a text the other week. A photo of a lemon tree on her balcony, the fruit still small and green. "Didn't think I could keep something alive," she wrote. I typed and erased 3 different replies. In the end, I sent back, "Look at you," because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a person is refuse to be the mirror they're used to looking into. The last item in the manila envelope from that day on the lawn sits in my safe now. A copy of the trust with Maya's signature, Loopy and Sure, next to mine. She wrote a note in the margin with a fine point pen. "Dad, I'll use this wisely. Thank you for choosing us." I told her there was no us to choose between. There was only her and the life she's building. I meant it. I mean it now. That's the whole story. Not the gossip version with teeth and whispered updates in someone's backyard. The quiet one with a father who learned that the best revenge against betrayal is not getting even. It's getting free.